K-hole is like an alternate universe where you can't really speak. You are not present in your body. You're kind of watching it down from above, and you're watching your life start to kind of play out a little bit, but you're not physically present in it. You're just watching it. It's the easiest way that I can explain what K-hole is. This is with ketamine abuse, and this is actually somewhat common out there. Even when it comes to ketamine therapy, which can lead into ketamine abuse. I mean, there are therapeutic sides to ketamine. I am very for those. But also you have to be aware that ketamine is an addictive drug also. I have watched it ruin people. Comment your experience down below. K-hole is when you take too much of this, you go into a catatonic state where you are awake, but you're not awake, you're not alert. You're trying to talk, but maybe you're just kind of mumbling out your words and you're not being very clear with your sentences. Everything is very distorted. It looked to me like everybody had like googly eyes, and their eyes always looked bigger, like their faces looked bigger with their eyes. Very euphoric, sensory kind of off the charts. I had to smoke because it made me feel like my lungs, and I knew my lungs were still there. Ego death can happen with it, where with ego death, it's even more of like you don't know where reality and you like end. You are there, but you're not there. There is no beginning. There is no end. It's actually traumatic, and people will talk about some of the trauma that they face from ego death because you've lost yourself in a sense. It's very scary. It can put you in a lot of psychosis. There's a lot of therapy all of a sudden involved in this, of abusing this. So it comes to, people are going to use ketamine because it is euphoric. It feels good. It relaxes you. There's some sensory to it. It's a good feeling drug. I'm not going to lie. I've done ketamine before. I've snorted it before. A lot of times it's mixed into cocaine. It's called Special K if it is. And you could tell that cocaine was cut with it because you would snort cocaine and there would be this visual side to it is how I could tell, because things got distorted visually from it and it didn't burn at all like crystal meth did. And again, I do share for educational purposes only. Comment down below, hit the like and follow button if you're new to the channel. I do share a lot of substance education to hopefully have it make sense to some people who maybe they live with an addict or an addict, or if you are an addict, maybe this wakes you up and goes, dude, I don't want to do this anymore and I want to get sober. But when it comes to ketamine itself, the substance alone is addictive. When it comes to therapy, a lot of times there's like tablets you can do, or you can do an IV drip. There's different ways to take this in, but it's all going to affect your brain very much a similar way. And I will say this, that you are not attached to reality. You're going to come out with some very outlandish thoughts. For me, I was, again, always doing it with cocaine. There's a very sexual side. I loved sensory, how it felt. I loved to kiss. I loved to touch. I loved to have sex with it. It kind of exploited that side of the dopamine production in my brain. For a lot of people, though, it is more of like you're almost kind of just paralyzed and could sit in a chair and just smile and stare and not be there, but there. And that is what a K-hole is. And this catatonic state can last for a very long time. And even though you come out of this, you can still go back into it, the next time that you use. And the problem is there are some health risks when it comes to like K-hole, for example. I mean, it can cause traumatic trauma to you to the point that you're in therapy because it has distorted reality for you. And you are in this very psychosis state where you think what reality is not what reality is. It's so hard to explain of how this jacks with your brain and your perception. There's the other sides where it can cause, oxygen deprivation because it just suppresses some of your breathing. There is ways that you can hurt yourself because just physical injury, you're not conscious sometimes of your movements. And the one thing I don't think people give themselves enough credit or enough awareness to, I should say, is like the physical injury side of being on substances, of hurting your hands and stuff, of smacking them and smashing them on things, not realizing that you are, and afterwards you're in pain. This is something that's actually kind of common. Ketamine, it is one of those drugs that it's common with. And ketamine was one of these it's kind of a party drug, a rave drug. It does make music sound a little bit different. You can feel the bass in your chest a little different. It's not like Molly or MDMA. It doesn't have that psychedelic sensory side as much with the energy side. But when you do mix it with cocaine, it does have the energy side to it. And that's the scary thing is, a lot of times when you are even doing cocaine or you're doing ketamine, you don't know what else it's cut with. It can be found to be cut with fentanyl. Unfortunately, fentanyl is pretty much cut into everything out there now. whether it is on purpose or it just happens to be cross-contamination. And when you're taking a lot of these different drugs, a lot of times you're not an opiate addict, so you don't have a tolerance to this. So it's so much easier to OD and nod out with it than you really realize it is. That's one of the scariest things to me of like, well, it helps keep me sober because I know how much cocaine and ketamine, all this other stuff is cut with fentanyl. And the volume that I used to do, the odds of me running across fentanyl if I was doing drugs the way that I was is extremely high. And I probably wouldn't be here. I mean, that's the honest reality. And so I love my life. I will fight for my life. I'm not going to let my life go anywhere. But when it comes to ketamine itself, people do think it's a little bit safer of a drug. It has this stigma. I mean, look at Elon Musk, this billionaire, and he does ketamine therapy and it helps with depression. And you do get a lot of psychiatrists out there who kind of push this on you. I've had this pushed on me by one of my old psychiatrists actually, who was like, hey, if you ever want to try ketamine therapy, it's going to help you. It's going to help you. And there's all this like great, but also let's be aware of the negative side of ketamine. Let's be aware of the person's background with ketamine. I would say this: if you're an addict in recovery and you're with a psychiatrist and they want you to start really doing ketamine therapy, have a hard discussion even with yourself and your family, just because this can lead you back into addiction very easily. It does just numb everything. It makes you feel good. It makes you euphoric. It can reprogram and rewire your brain to seeing this as a coping tool, as in an escape tool, than any kind of actual medication and actually helping you. So that is one of the things to keep in mind. I do know most people that I've watched using ketamine, at a certain point, I would say at least half of them start to kind of abuse it. And that's scary because I know the effects of it. There is withdrawal that goes to it. There's a very big mental withdrawal, a lot of depression that goes along with it. It does damage and hurt some of your neurotransmitters. And ultimately, you're chasing this high and you're chasing this drug that you don't feel is dangerous. And whenever anything is used for therapy, we have it in our brain then that it's safe, and it's not always that way. So please keep that in mind when it comes to ketamine itself, that it isn't always safe for everybody. And again, use it at your own risk. And if you are doing it with a doctor, definitely explain to them your background or your history if you have a substance abuse history. For me, ketamine mixed with coke was great, but then again, I would do so much coke that I would go into I'd call it like a semi, like K-hole, where I could still kind of function. And it just became one of the many drugs in my whole system that was reacting with each other that, like, I would drive home and not know how I drove home, and I couldn't get my thoughts and my verbalization down good. And that sucked, because then you're like paralyzed in its own weird sense mentally. And I think anybody who's ever used ketamine, so if you've never used ketamine before, you've never used drugs before this video, you're gonna be like, what was he just talking about? But if you have, you're like, oh my God, this all makes sense, yes. I mean, that's how we are as addicts. We get each other. And that's why, again, I said I share for educational purposes only. Hit the like and follow button. A lot more of my videos make more sense than this one do, but ketamine, it doesn't make sense. A K-hole doesn't make sense. Trying to explain it's so difficult unless you've actually experienced it before. But that is also why I share, is to let people know that we do recover, finding what works for you. I mean, recovery is different for everybody, whether it is going into rehab, inpatient treatment, or outpatient treatment. I have Refined Recovery down below. They're amazing individuals in Beverly Hills. They got great programs, high success rate. Download Sunflower Sober. I have that down below. It's an app on iOS and Google Play. Start tracking your days of sobriety. Start talking to Sam, your AI sponsor. You have 24/7 sponsor support. You have a journaling section to learn all about and journal addiction and tracking your cravings. Therapy, you have a community of just every other addicts that you can bounce ideas off of, and coping tools. There's a whole learn and resource section. I mean, Sunflower Sober is really amazing that you can get sober and stay sober with just that even. But also go to an AA meeting, an NA meeting, an Al-Anon meeting. Like, go to different meetings, meet other addicts, get addicts in recovery as friends, build a community around you, a support system around you, because it's really nice to have those that understand you, and to, when you are struggling, those to reach out to. Going to a doctor, a psychiatrist, a therapist, getting on the right meds, the right therapy, and just finding what works for you, man, because we do recover. My drugs of choice were alcohol and cocaine. It was a battle. I mean, even when I got sober, I really struggled a lot mentally, and I struggled with temper, and it made my identity my sobriety, but I could have done so much better and got so much further ahead instead of just wallowing in anger and hatred almost of being sober. And it does get better. I mean, for the ones out there that are fighting through, I'm proud of you. It does get better. For some, maybe it's going to get better in 6 months. For others, it gets better in a year. Who knows when it's going to get better? But at a certain point, you're going to look back and go, you know what, my life is better than when I was using. But you're going to be up against a lot. You're up against your own brain. Your brain has to heal. It has to regrow transmitters. I mean, you've done a lot of damage to your brain. We have jacked our brains up. But it can bounce back to a point. You just have to be patient with yourself. I'm proud of you, man, if you're trying to get sober. Just don't give up. Don't give up. It does get better. You're worth it.